I know you live up in North Carolina, and it's not exactly SEC country up there, but
Mm.
I am solidly in an area and have obviously a lot of Auburn folks because it's everybody's favorite backup school. So
Auburn
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview Georgia's matchup with Auburn in the 127th installment of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. Whoa, that was a loud pop.
Was it?
I don't know. It was for me. Maybe it was muted through the microphone.
I could barely hear it on
All right, so
your fancy microphone.
I ended up not having any of this the other night, so we saved it for tonight. So again, trying to somewhat with the theme, since we're playing Auburn, who can't make up their mind on what their mascot is. I do have Eagle Rare, which kind of sort of goes with the opponent. So that's what I got tonight.
Excellent.
What do you have tonight?
Tonight I have the Henry McKenna 10 years single barrel bottled and bond.
Ooh, very nice. Man, I have that and I haven't opened it yet.
Oh, you haven't had it?
That would have been funny if I had chosen tonight and have that and we had the same thing.
This is one of John's recommendations from when I very first got into bourbon. And it's not my favorite, but it's a solid bourbon.
Okay.
I would say that sorry, John. I would say that there are probably better bourbons at the price point is what I would say.
Right. I have learned that you are a bang for your buck. You it's not about the expensive bourbon, it's about the taste.
That is correct. Although sometimes the expensive bourbon is the good taste.
Fair. Yes.
But yes, generally speaking, there's a cost value ratio as with many things. Food is also in that vein as well.
Okay.
But yeah, this one's high on the cost value ratio.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know, John, if you remember, but it's become an annual tradition on My God a Podcast to open this episode with
It's that time again.
I like driving in my truck. Auburn sucks. I like driving in my truck. He likes to drive in his truck. Auburn sucks. I like trucks. He likes trucks.
Do you like trucks, John?
I do like trucks.
I don't care for Auburn. He doesn't care
He doesn't care for Auburn. Oh. Sorry, Carter.
All good. So as we like to do these Squidbillies, legendary like outro from an episode, I believe, as I recall. Like the episode was like ending when that happened.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
Shout out T-Pain. Winner of the Masked Singer. I don't know if we've ever discussed that on here before when we played that. He won the Masked Singer, I think, season 1. My kids love that show. Anyways.
My kids also like that show. We haven't seen it in a while though, but yeah.
Yeah. I was about to. We'll discuss that at another time, lest we go off the rails even further.
Even further than we already have.
Let's see. Shall we jump into the matchup, or did you have anything else you wanted to hit on before we jump straight in there?
I will say that this game is one of those games that I sincerely hope is never impacted by the division situation with the conference expansion, the playoff expansion. Just hope that this one is one of those rivalries that you just got to do. Like it's the Deep South's oldest rivalry, so we just need to continue this because it's fun. Like I have Auburn friends that, you know, they talk to me about this game, and it's almost become the Georgia, with the way that the Georgia Tech game used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, for a while there, you know, when Tech was challenging us, this was, you know, this was kind of the same vein. Like it was like, oh man, we got Auburn. They're always tough. It's, you know, and it's changed a lot in recent years with the downturn of Georgia Tech and the downturn of the Auburn program, frankly, as well. So now it's not such a big deal. And I feel like my Auburn friends are much kinder for it, but they are definitely, there's an undercurrent of simmering emotions about the state of the Auburn program amongst the Barners that I know. As soon as they get their, you know, a hire in or get the program turned around or whatever, man, they're going to be back to obnoxious.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree. I mean, this is one of those games that I feel like you cannot lose this game on an annual basis. I think that whatever needs to be done should be done to keep it, and get off my lawn if you think otherwise.
Agreed.
That's just me. All right, so we can kind of jump into the matchup. So 3:30 p.m. kickoff, Dooley Field at Sanford Stadium, between the hedges. Auburn comes in at 3-2 on the season, 1-1 in the SEC. The game is on CBS. Tom McCarthy, play-by-play, Rick Neuheisel, analyst, and Sherry Burris on the sideline. So while it is a 3:30 CBS game, it's part of a doubleheader. So that's why we have that broadcast crew. It's not no Gary Danielson for those that don't like Gary. The official hashtag is hashtag AUB versus UGA. John, even though you attempted to remind me, I did not remember to use the official hashtag when tweeting about the Missouri game last weekend. Hey, maybe that's part of the struggles. Maybe if we use the official hashtag, we can right the ship there.
Maybe if we use the official hashtag. I did not go for my usual run that morning, so it's 2 weeks in a row I haven't done that. I did run a half marathon before, but on the day before, but right. I kind of was struggling with leaving the beach last week. So this week I'm here. This week Carter doesn't actually have a soccer game, so technically could go to this game, and I may try to negotiate a little bit. We're supposed to go to the pumpkin patch or something last minute, so we'll see.
Okay, gotcha. I might know someone who could get you a ticket. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Let me know.
Are you not going?
No, I'm going, but I think I might have one for you. I think I may have. I may be able to get you one.
Okay.
So, I know a guy.
We'll take it offline.
We'll take that offline. For that can be in the podcast after the podcast. Let's see. The weather looks like a great fall weather day. Kind of partly cloudy, high of 75. So should be a great day for the tailgate for those who are out and about.
A Chamber of Commerce day.
Chamber of Commerce, yeah, I certainly hope so. I don't know, love good fall weather for this game. It's being played in the wrong month, but if we could at least get some nice crisp weather, that'd be great. Georgia leads the all-time series 62, 56, and 8, and this is the 127th meeting of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So I feel like that just kind of piles on and adds to this whole like keep this game. Just 127th time to have this game not be played annually, I think would be criminal. So, dear SEC schedulers, please keep that in mind.
As we were just recording this, I think the practice notes from today were posted, and Kirby Smart actually had a whole spiel about this with the players. You might want to go over and check that out over at Dog Central.
Excellent. About the rivalry itself.
Yeah, he mentioned. Let's just say that the rivalry was a discussion point with Kirby Smart today, which obviously he has a unique perspective on that as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. This is your weekly reminder to go and subscribe to dogcentral.com. And
yes,
you can get excellent intel and information like that.
Amongst many others, injury updates. There's some guys maybe coming back. So go check out the boys. They know their stuff.
For sure. I was looking for some fun facts. I've got one, not even really Auburn related initially, but so, Georgia did fall back down to number 2 in the rankings after the struggle to defeat Missouri last week. But Georgia has been ranked either number 1 or number 2 in 19 of the past 21 AP polls, with the other 2 weeks at number 3. So that's a fun fact on Georgia's ranking. I did have something about. Did you have any Auburn things, John?
You mean the East Alabama Male College?
Oh, okay. So that's where I was going. I love that. They've had several names.
Which just goes to show you that these people are just really confused about who they are.
They can't. Oh my gosh. We already knew they couldn't decide on a mascot, much less the name of their school, apparently.
Correct. I mean, you got the East Alabama Male College. You got what were they renamed after that? Like the Agricultural and Mechanical College of Alabama.
Yeah. And then they were like Alabama Polytechnic, I think was the last one before they were Auburn. So if I knew that before today, I don't remember it. Maybe this is one of those things that I knew at some point and forgot, but I found it interesting because I actually I went and got out, fraternity brother of ours, Tony Barnhart, wrote a book called Southern Fried Football many years ago. I actually have a signed copy that my sister gave me years ago. I was kind of perusing through that just to see, did he mention that? We had the whole mix up where the records against Samford weren't even right because they had a different name.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone has just always if you read the history of the SEC, they'll talk about Auburn. It just always says Auburn. You don't ever see it referred to that name. And they didn't officially become Auburn University until the 60s. So I find that interesting. I think from what I gathered, because I tried to look into it a little bit, I think because it is in Auburn, Alabama, I think a lot of people just called it Auburn anyway, apparently. Right. And so I think that's kind of part of it. But the helmet that we know today, the AAU helmet, that didn't exist until the 60s. Until after they were officially had their official name changed Auburn. So they actually used to have a white helmet just with the numbers on it. So kind of like Alabama, but instead of crimson, it was a white helmet. So,
oh man, that's just, you're going to make some Auburn people rage over that one. just like Alabama.
Yeah. That's actually what the thing that I found today was Alabama wasn't the only team to have numbers on their helmets back then. So, all right, that's all I got for the fun facts. That's great.
I got nothing else other than that little.
No, that was a good one. I love that we had the same poll. Shocking.
Shocking. Weird.
Amazing. Let's see. Let's hit the news and notes. So one note, Jack Pod is the co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. And I think rightfully alongside Mr. Robato Harrison Mevis, the Missouri kicker. I believe that was the first time we've ever gifted another player from another team. And sorry, I didn't even run that one by you, John. I kind of just tweeted it out after the game, but I thought that was pretty amazing celebration that he did. Considering we won. If we hadn't won that game, I would not have gifted that. But so congrats to Jackpot. He went toe to toe. Wow, that was bad. Toe to toe with the kicker from Missouri. Couple of things from Kirby's press conference. Jalen Carter is out. There was a timeline given. I think it was 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. I think they're thinking sprained knee from that play that we did discuss in the Missouri review. There should have been a flag. It wasn't. AD Mitchell, again, got the Kirby Smart hopeful kiss of death, unfortunately. So I would not expect to see AD Mitchell back yet this week. But he did say that Javon Bullard should be back. So I think, which is kind of what we suspected. That seems like in line with the university policy around alcohol related arrests. So looks like he should be back. So those were the things I gleaned, other than what you texted me about, or we were talking about, with Kirby's press conference.
Yeah, well, you got Kirby's press conference, and then I think that there are some updates that Graham posted today, because I do believe that there will be some participants in the game that you mentioned that very similar to Arian Smith. Like Arian Smith wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot of hype before the game for Arian, and he ended up playing. So we'll see.
Gotcha. The other thing I was referring to was Kirby's attire in the press conference.
Yes, the sweatshirt. The Kirby just strolls out there with this, like, I would say nostalgic sweatshirt. Like, wouldn't you say it's a bit of a throwback?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it was a nice looking sweatshirt. Kirby gets like the best gear. Like Kirby will wear these pullovers and things, and it's like, is this sold anywhere? Like,
of course not. He gets the Nike special release. Right, I tell you what, my dad is for sure going to be looking for that sweatshirt because he despises the hoodie trend. And every time I try like, hey dad, we went for Christmas. It's like, I want a damn Georgia sweatshirt that doesn't have a hood on it. And I'll show him, and I'll find some, and I'll be like, hey, you like this one? You like this one? He's like, no, he's very particular about his Georgia sweatshirts.
Yeah, I know. Like the youths love the hoodies. So something I forgot to mention in our Missouri review is why it's coming out why it did come out a day later. So I'll go ahead and drop that here. Lily and I went to the Panthers game on Sunday, so I was totally out of pocket Sunday afternoon, and so but Lily got a fresh new Panthers hoodie because she only had like a t-shirt, and she wanted something warmer for the game because it was a little windy. So the kids love the hoodies, so I got her a new hoodie for the Panthers game. And actually, I also have to add, shout out Greg. Greg, thank you for the tickets. Much appreciated. Got to sit in Greg's seats for the Panthers game, so that's pretty sweet. Anyways, I digress. Off of the apparel talk and things I forgot to say last episode. So I had one Auburn note, not so much a note. It's more of a question for you. Like at this point of the season, Auburn is, so they're 3-2. They're 1-1 in the conference. Their only wins are over Mercer, San Jose State, in Missouri, and frankly, they should have lost the Missouri game. The most recent loss to LSU. Like, how hot is Brian Harson's seat these days on the Plains?
I would say it's every. I know you live up in North Carolina, and it's not exactly SEC country up there, but. I am solidly in an area and have obviously a lot of Auburn folks because it's everybody's favorite backup school. So, which in their defense, I was offered a scholarship at Auburn and turned it down because it was my backup school. But yeah, so the folks here, and I do happen to know some boosters at Auburn, and they are not happy at all.
Yeah.
So I would say that he is solidly in the on his way out, which would be crazy because I think, doesn't he have like an $80 million buyout or something like that? Maybe that was Jimbo that someone was talking about, but I imagine that he's fairly new. It's what, like this is what, his second year?
Yes, correct. Year 2.
Yeah, so year two, I think that his rope is getting a lot shorter. Let's just say that, because I think that the way that they're losing is probably the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And frankly, like I so here's my thing with these guys from Boise State. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here about Boise State, but like
That's okay.
Chris
Mhm.
Peterson, you don't hear anything about him anymore. Like he was
Right.
the hot coaching guy from Boise State before, because
Hmm.
he was able to get them into like the Fiesta Bowl and their success and blah blah blah. Like obviously they had a lot of success, and he's had a lot of success at Boise State as well. And so here's the problem that I have is that Washington plucked Chris Peterson, took him to the West Coast. Auburn plucked Harsin from Boise State and took him to the SEC.
I've
Like
got
talk
another one
about
for you. We got another one for you. Dan Hawkins was, preceded Chris Peterson. He went from Boise State to Colorado, and similar fate at Colorado. He didn't last very long there.
yeah. So I mean, the writing's on the wall with the past coaches that came out of Idaho. I really question whoever was in charge of this coaching hire, just straight up. Like, did he have like? I don't think he had any connections to the SEC. I don't think he had any showcase that he could recruit at the level that he was going to need to recruit. And he's fumbled the ball multiple steps. Like I think that they put out like all these different communications from the program that are just like, what is going on? Like I think they did
Yeah.
one today. Like they put out some kind of communication about how tigers fight or something like that. Like what? What? What are you
Right.
talking? What are you doing? Like this is not how we do things in the SEC. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think that he's going to be around very long at all.
I think that's fair.
I would be surprised if the Auburn coaching job is not open by the end of the year.
Okay. Fair. Okay. All right. Why don't we move into the matchup stuff? So let's start with the Georgia offense. And I don't know, maybe I should give you the floor to air your grievances.
I got a lot of problems, and you people are going to hear about it. Oh man, were we talking about the offensive line?
Well, yeah. So just what are you looking for when Georgia has the ball in this game?
Okay, I'm looking for if AD Mitchell is playing in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
If AD Mitchell is playing in this game, it's going to present another option for Stetson to go deep. Obviously, I think that everybody knows that AD is the man, right? And I think that Stetson has obviously like warmed to him over his time at the university. So
Yep.
I think that if AD Mitchell is playing, it presents a different beast of a passing attack, which we talked about this on the Missouri review. Is that, and if you are a Dog Central subscriber, the guys have talked about this, like, and I think that the senator even talked about this. No one without AD Mitchell in the last game. I can't remember exactly when he got hurt. If he was out part of the game for, you know, they just don't trust Georgia's deep passing attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part
Yeah.
of that is because we're missing one of our deep threats. And Arian Smith obviously coming back on, that's going to help with the passing game deep as well. But I'll be looking for AD Mitchell's contribution on whether or not he's going to be a big contributor or not. And then the other thing is the offensive line, man. Just like it sounds like, I talked about the practice notes from this week. Like, it sounds like that they're addressing the concerns along the offensive line, which is what I have asked for. I think that in the Dog Central text thread, we've talked about this, like that John is hanging off a cliff, like he's on the cliff, and Jim's going to talk him down, which is fair. Like I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about this offensive line. I want to be wrong about Stacey Searles. I just don't have the warm fuzzies with Stacey Searles that I did with Sam Pittman, that I did with Matt Luke, to figure it out, because I've seen this movie before, And I just fear that it's going to matriculate into a worsening situation along the offensive line. That is a huge concern that I have. And I don't know. I need to see them make the adjustments that they need to make in order for this thing to be successful. And if AD Mitchell coming back and presenting a threat that people will have to respect is the answer, then so be it.
Yeah.
But we have to figure it out because we've got tougher opponents coming up that are going to present bigger and bigger problems, particularly as we start getting into the Floridas and the Kentuckys of the world are figuring out their own teams. And then, looking ahead, you have to figure Georgia's probably going to, walk away with the East. And, we've got Alabama on the horizon potentially as well, who's statistically throwing up some crazy numbers. So I need to see them just dominate page to page like they did in the beginning of the season is what I need.
Yeah. I feel like, so I think it's a great point. I mean, we haven't really been connecting on the deep ball, and we didn't really need it. I don't feel like early on, like, against Oregon and against South Carolina, it wasn't so much the deep ball, that we were utilizing to carve them up. It was like a lot of lateral and like quickness. And I feel like we kind of, for whatever reason, I feel like we didn't utilize that enough against Missouri. I do wonder if it was a bit of a kind of like square peg, round hole. Like we thought there was something we saw in film that was going to work and it didn't work. And we were convinced that it was going to. And so we kept working on it. I'm not quite sure. I've seen things like that before in the past. So yeah, I mean, agreed. Definitely want to look for the offensive line. And then let's see if the running back performance of Dejon Edwards from last week carries over here. I mean, I think Georgia for years now has been a 2-back system, and there's been a 1A and a 1B. And I want to know what happens when Dejon is 1B to McIntosh is 1A. I want that experience. I want that experiment to be conducted, and let's see the results. And I feel like, the time is now. I'd like to see that this week. Will we? I don't know, but I think that's what I would do. What do I know?
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
We'll have to monitor the practice notes, and I'll drop a hint to Graham hey Graham, can we get some inside sources on what's going on with the running back situation?
Yeah. And maybe, maybe another thing would be, hey, maybe let's increase, again, throw back to one of your comments from last episode. Maybe let's increase the Darnell Washington utilization snap count. And the guy is just like a walking mismatch. Not that Brock Bowers isn't. I mean, we got two of the best tight ends in the country. Let's use them both.
Yeah, agreed.
On the Auburn side, linebacker Owen Peppo is Auburn's leading tackler. So just to call that out, but I feel like it's more with the offense. Like I feel like it's more about us than the opponent, frankly. Not to be dismissive of the Auburn defense, but it's about what we do and how we're reacting to what is thrown at us. I think is the most important thing, is going to be the key to our success. So,
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What about the defense? So when Auburn has the ball, I've got a couple of players that I'll call out for Auburn. So, they have changed quarterbacks. So they're not playing the same quarterback as they were early in the year. Robbie Ashford is now in a quarterback. He's a freshman from Hoover, Alabama. He is 46 of 85 for 709 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 picks. He is also the team's second leading rusher on both total yards gained and on the volume of attempts. So he's got 50 carries for 223 yards and a touchdown. So a true dual threat quarterback here at Auburn now.
That's crazy. That's crazy because he's got almost as many rushing yards as Tank Bigsby, which if
Yeah.
you'd have told me that before the season, I would have. Yeah, it's a little strange, because it looks like that everything with this team begins and ends with Robbie Ashford.
It's interesting, right? And so, I mean, Finley was the guy that we kind of assumed would be there, and he basically got pulled during that. I don't know. I'll just the loss to Penn State. I was trying to think of like a a qualifying word because they lost that one pretty decisively. But yeah, so I mean, Finley got pulled in the Penn State game, and it's been Ashford ever since. So I mean, that is again something to watch for with the defense. How are they going to handle that? They're going to have to play good assignment football because this guy will tuck it and run.
So
you mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
So Robbie Ashford, something to be looking out for here is, as much as he brings to the table from a running perspective, I think that he is a less dangerous quarterback, if that makes sense. So, he's, his completion percentage is significantly lower. He's been sacked. He's been sacked a lot more, which tells me that he maybe makes some bad decisions. He's got a touchdown interception ratio that's basically a push. So I think that we could be in a situation where, like, if it gets to him making bad decisions, because one thing that we are very good at is moving laterally along the defense to run down and pace down guys that are trying to run the ball. I obviously Jalen Carter being out may be a potential problem up the middle, as we saw. That we had the busted running play. I think that's something that could potentially be an issue for us along the interior, depending on what Jalen Carter's availability is. It sounds like he's going to be out. So
yeah, he's out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll watch that situation along the interior. But that said, typically with these like spread guys, right? And I'm just going back thinking about like the Boise State offenses that we've seen in the past. The quarterback, generally speaking, is going outside, and if that's the case, that sets up to him running into the buzzsaw teeth of this defense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I think you bring up a good point with Carter being out in Bigsby. I mean, Bigsby is a good back. I was actually kind of surprised with his numbers. Like, I feel like they're
little pedestrian numbers. Yeah.
Yes, they're lower than, like, when I went to look up his numbers, they were lower than I expected them to be. So he's the 7th leading rusher in the SEC, 69 carries for 326 yards and 4 touchdowns. I kind of thought they would be bigger. So I don't know. Maybe Ashford's taking away some of those carries, I guess, in the way they were running the offense. Now, I haven't watched a ton of them. I did have I had my multi TV set up on my porch this past weekend. So I actually had I had the Georgia game on, I had the Braves game on over to the side, and then I had Auburn LSU going, which brings me back to your comment around Ashford's decision making. I don't know if you saw the pick he threw that kind of sealed the game for LSU. Poor decision. He's kind of rolling out to the right, in duress, either needs to throw it away or just take the sack or something. And I mean, it's interesting. Like, Missouri should have beaten Auburn. Auburn should have beaten LSU. I mean, they were up, I think 17.
They were up big.
Yeah, they're up like 17-0.
And then we're having a different conversation about who's on the hot seat. Is it LSU or is it Brian Kelly or is it Brian Harrison? Which Brian's on the hot seat?
Nice. Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Let's see. The only other guy, just looking at their leading receiver, is Javarius Johnson. He's got 16 catches for 305 yards on the season with 1 touchdown. And with that, I was kind of looking through their stats. One thing that I thought was interesting, he is the leading touchdown catcher, and no one has more than 1 receiving touchdown on this team. They've got multiple guys with one TD catch, and that's it. There's not a guy that even has 2 TD catches on the season. I thought that was interesting, kind of weird.
That is kind of weird.
Also, one other fun fact: they do have a not quite as much used tight end with 2 catches for 40 yards, Tyler Fromm.
He sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
That name sounds really familiar. Where do I know that name from?
He didn't make like didn't Bo Nix threw some kind of crazy pass to him last year to win some game. I don't remember, but that is a thing. This is first time in a long time we played Auburn without Bo Nix. It's like I don't really remember what it's like to play them without Bo Nix. So it's gonna be. I miss Bo Nix just kind of running around in the back. And we got to see him this year anyway, so I guess that gives us some solace. But yeah, so I guess the other thing on the defense, Kirby said he does expect Bullard to be back. So that was one of your questions in Missouri review. So another thing to watch out for is with assuming Bullard is available, does he just immediately retake that star position? Did they see something in Tyke Smith? What does that rotation look like? That'll be something to watch for as well. And then just the secondary, how can we I don't know, I don't know. Is it fair to say that we need to clean up the deep ball? I'm not sure. Because they didn't hit a ton of them. Missouri didn't. I don't know how concerned I should be about that or not. But something just to keep watching, just with the youth of Lassiter and frankly, hope get Ringo kind of like back into form a bit as well. So,
yes, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go. Again, I think that like we mentioned on the review show, the defense I think is. I'm not worried about the defense, even like the blown coverages and even like some of the leadership, potential holes that we have on the defensive side. The defense is still performing at an elite level. It's really the offense, and frankly, like it all starts and ends with the offensive line because Stetson was running for his life. He got drilled. He was getting hit. Like we talked about Monken. Like I don't know if he was making some different calls or what, but or if for the second week in a row, they're just trying to manufacture difficulty for the offense, like telling them to do all the things that they're not good at doing.
Right.
I don't know. I really have no idea. Maybe they were just trying to throw the number one ranking so that they got rid of some of that rat poison and allowed Nick Saban to get some rat poison. I don't know. But what I do know is that I just need to see some dominance again amongst the offensive line, and that's what I'm looking for.
Yep, fair. I don't have much on the special teams notes. I feel like they continue to be solid. Thorson has been great at punter. He actually got in some work, got some reps. I know he jokes with Stetson at the first game that Stetson hates Australians. We don't need to like him to like Australians so much that Thorson has to punt as much as he did last week. But he continues to look good. So that was a bit of a concern or an unknown coming into the season. Replacing Camarda. So that's been good. And Jackpot obviously. Special teams player of the week. And, something we didn't talk about, I don't believe we actually returned a punt against Missouri. I think they were all fair catches. So we'll see if maybe Kirby's ready to take the handcuffs off of Ladd yet this week. That'll be something to watch for.
Or Kieris.
Never doubt Kieris. Never doubt
Kieris.
He had a pretty good kick return last week, by the way.
But anyways. I thought he was going to bust it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, before we get into the listener questions, would like to remind everyone that season 3 of My God a Podcast is brought to you by Oxytime. Oxytime is a custom watch company And if you want to commemorate the Dogs national championship in style, you've got to check out their Georgia national championship timepieces. Now, John, I mentioned that we're about to go into the listener questions. I'm kind of surprised we did not get a listener question about whether Georgia will or will not wear black jerseys, unless I missed one. So I haven't seen really any blackout talk this week. I think that's probably a good thing. I think everyone has kind of come to terms with the fact that Kirby's not going to allow the black jerseys.
Bust it out. Yes.
But if you would like an Oxia Time blackout watch, those are now available at oxiatime.com. So, John and I have the first watch that they came out with for the 2021 national champions. As we've mentioned before, it is officially licensed by both the University of Georgia and the College Football Playoff. And that's also the case with this new watch. So it's a great look, black face, black band. Definitely go check that out. So if you want to take a look, see what it looks like, check them out at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. And exclusively for our listeners, you can get 10% off these timepieces using code MyGottaPodcast at checkout. The last thing I'll add is the pictures of these are great on the site, but if you have to see one in person, come find me. John, we've talked about you may be there for the game. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be around town in Athens. I'll be wearing my watch. So if you want to, just come up and say, hey, and I'm happy to show it to you and show you why I think it'd be a great purchase for you and a great gift for this holiday season.
Yes, a gift for the hard to please Georgia fan. The nice Swiss-made self-winding movement watch. It's an awesome timepiece.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. I am loving mine. All right, let's hit the listener questions. All right, first up, 51-7 GATA. As we get ready for another Auburn game, with all of the crazy games over the years, out of these three, which was your favorite? A, 1992, stay down, you guys. B, 1994, sometimes a tie equals a win. And C, 1996, that first overtime game. I will add, a friend of the show, Tim Riley, added, I've got to fix his year, 2002, the time Jim and I were on TV and in the paper. So if you'll recall, 20 years ago, by the way, that was the Michael Johnson touchdown catch. This is the 20th anniversary, although it's earlier in the season, but whatever, of that happening. So I know, John, like your Georgia fandom was later blooming in life than mine. So I'm not sure if you are even as familiar with the other three.
I am, only because of the history lessons that I've taken over the years, but I would say that 2000, that was the Johnson was 2002, right?
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, I would say that one would be my favorite moment, just because it was something I lived through personally.
Right. Fair.
Not to say I didn't live through the other ones. I just wasn't fully aware.
Right. You weren't like actively watching them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. I probably would have picked that one too, but I'm going to go to the man. And I have like a story with, like, I remember like where I was and what was going on with all three of the other ones. I will say 1996 though, because that one, the unique thing about that one, and apologies if I've talked about this on here before or not, I can't really remember. I was in the car when the game got tied to go to overtime. So we were set to go visit my grandparents that day. And we had to, like, the game, was running long. And so we had to leave. So we left. And so we were just listening to Munson. So, when Bobo threw that thing in the end zone, as Munson said, we were only being guided by Larry Munson's voice. And so I experienced the game tying touchdown to Corey Allen, who's a member of Bulldog Bourbon Social Club. When he threw that, when Bobo threw that pass to Corey Allen, I was listening to Munson, had no TV, listened to all the overtimes, had only Munson to guide us. So I'll pick that one of those three, 51-7 GATA.
Nice.
All right. Next up, UGA Hoops Mafia. What would y'all say is the most iconic moment in the rivalry?
I would say when Uga lunged at the name is escaping me. Uga lunging at the Auburn player is probably That's got to be one of the most iconic moments, right? Like as far as like a positive now, like on the negative side, like getting the hoses turned on you is
Yeah.
pretty memorable as well. But
Yeah.
the Johnson in the end zone, like I don't know. I'm just thinking about like I'm just trying to think of like the posterized moments, but like now I'm even like going back and like remembering like the blackout moment, like the moment that they came out in the jerseys for the blackout. So
yeah.
oh man. I would say that the blackout one is probably one of the more iconic moments because of just how it all went down. And just I wasn't there, but I was watching and I remember thinking to myself, holy crap, that sounds really loud. And that checks out.
Yeah, it was loud. I was there. I've never heard it's never been that loud when the team ran out because people didn't, we didn't know it was going to happen, or we thought it might happen, but we didn't know. Man, now you've got me on that track in my mind. So funny story. You remember that was like the Soldier Boy game. Also, like they played Soldier Boy in the stadium one this season. And there's the I feel like the real iconic moment was Vern and Gary dancing to Soldier Boy.
They were dancing
in the booth. So I gotta plug one of our fellow Dog Central podcasts, 100 Sanford. They had Coach Rick on recently, and they talked about that, and they talked about Soldier Boy. And I'm going to paraphrase, but Coach Rick said, "Yeah, we used to play Soldier Boy in the stadium, but then I found out what the lyrics meant, and I put an end to it." So
that is 100% on brand.
So at any rate, so mine was Uga, and it was Robert Baker, by the way. Robert Baker is a player that Uga lunged at, and I think that's it for me. And that's from that same game. That's from the 1996 overtime game. So that would be mine.
Right.
Let's see. Next up, Fletcher Proctor. Is Nick Fairley the most hated Georgia opponent ever for trying to kill Aaron Murray back in 2010? He said, "I feel like everyone hates him, but that was just one game." He throws out some others. Tebow beat us 3 times. Joe Hamilton had like 435 yards. Peyton was 4-0. Danny Werfel, 7 touchdowns in 2 games, 5 in Sanford. So yeah, I don't know that Nick Fairley is necessarily the most hated. I mean, at the time, yes. Like I was so fired up. Nick Fairley, and then Trooper Taylor, I think, was like the assistant coach, like waving his towel nonstop in that game.
That was going to be. It's either got to be Nick Fairley or Trooper Taylor.
So I don't know. And for some of the other ones, like Peyton Manning, like I hated him a lot back then, but now I just think of him as, whatever. Like he didn't win a national championship. He owned us, and I really hated him back then. But that's kind of faded for me personally. I think of Peyton as an NFL quarterback now for whatever reason.
So I think that when I think of most hated, I think of something like a Nick Fairley situation.
Yeah.
But when you talk about most hated just because they beat you all the time, like a Steve Spurrier situation.
He mentioned Spurrier as at the coach level for sure. Yeah. Not as a player, but as a coach. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. You can't top coach Spurrier. There's no way.
But Nick Fairley for me, for sure. I'm dirty. Yeah.
At the time, I do think Joe Hamilton is a pretty good one. As far as, he was, that guy was very good. He was very good. And, he beat us my first 2 years of college. So I think that's another good one. But yeah, I don't know. But the Nick Fairley, and I know it was just that one game, but holy cow. He speared Aaron Murray in the back,
He did.
What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, came at him. But Joe Hamilton, I don't know. What do you hate? The hate you just he was so good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he didn't do anything specifically. And he actually seems like pretty nice.
He seems like a nice guy. And Tebow seems like a nice guy. If he was our quarterback, they would have built a statue.
Fair. Fair.
Danny Werfel, same thing. Peyton Manning, same thing. Other than being a Papa John's pizza hawker. Like the fact that you can't like turn your head during football season and not see him somewhere.
True. Okay.
Like, I just think of like the seething hate. Nick Fairley for sure.
Right. I think you've won me over. Let's see. Chris Dog 90. Which last or present tiger would you like to get bit by Uga? Which I put this one after the last one because obviously the answer is Nick Fairley.
Oh, we're talking about actual players. I thought he was talking about like past, like Mike the Tigers or whatever. Like
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger. Yeah.
I think he means Auburn player.
Yeah, Auburn player. Yeah, Nick Fairley for sure.
Yeah.
Like just give him a nice, like just a nice big bite out of your.
Sorry, Carter.
Sorry, Carter.
Let's see. John Michael D. Why is the Deep South's oldest rivalry such a crazy contest that makes no sense 9 out of 10 years? He said, in all seriousness, is this week once again Stickwavius time? Hashtag. So what do you think, John? Do we see the return of Stickwavius this week?
How are we defining the return of Stickwavius? Like, is this like Stetson Bennett as this ruthless gunslinger, the 250 yards passing, one rushing touchdown, Stetson Bennett? I
didn't write it in, so I'm gonna have to say this from memory because John Michael D does like to pre-clarify for you, John.
Yes,
he said like Oregon game Stickwavius, lights out Stetson.
I would like for it to be Stickwavius time, but I'm just going to go back to my doubts on the offensive line.
Yeah,
like I said on the Missouri preview, I feel like that they gave the template for how to beat this defense or how to beat this offense, which is just for the defense to bring the house. And I need to see them give an answer. So I'm going to say that's a push.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think we could see it if the offensive line can protect them. And I feel like the same thing has been true of the running backs, right? Like we've talked about, like last week we talked about like the running backs being able to get the yards before contact, right? Like having those holes, and they were there late in the game against Missouri. They certainly weren't there in the first half. So yeah, we definitely want to see the offensive line step up a bit.
Agreed.
Okay, let's see. Chad Jarvis, is Jalen Carter the most important piece to this entire team? And I wanted to throw this one back because we got a question earlier in the season, and I apologize, I'm blanking. I think it was Hug Dog on like was Malachi Starks the MVP of the defense to that point in the season, and we threw him out there as a good one. But I think we were kind of trying to come up with other folks who it might be, and Jalen Carter is who we landed on. I feel like we've kind of seen that come to light through his absence, how important he is. So I mean, on the entire team, certainly on the defense.
So yes, okay. So you just hit the clarifying statement I was just about to clarify.
Yeah.
So is Jalen Carter the most MVP of the defense? Yes and yes. I mean, I don't know. The Missouri game was we dominated them from a defensive standpoint. So to say that he was like most important is patently false because he was one of the lowest snap count guys. I think he only had like 9 snaps on defense, and we still dominated them from a defensive standpoint. So like, okay. I'm not. Again, I say that to say that like is having him there much better because he was the highest graded defender that we had on the defense that obviously didn't play as much. So is he important? Yes. Does he make life easier for this team? Yes, absolutely. Is he the most important piece of the entire team? I'm not based on the last 2 weeks. I'm not so certain. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that Cedric Van Pran is the most important piece to this entire team. And I'm going to give you a long-winded way of saying why.
Okay, hit me with it.
He had his worst game this past week. When the central piece of your offensive line is underperforming, it makes the entire system not work right. So if Cedric Van Pran is having his worst game, the other offensive linemen are also having their worst game because they're having to pick up the slack that they frankly I don't know. I haven't seen it. Ratledge, I feel like I'm not sure what's going on with him. It's almost like a Kendall Milton situation. Like, haven't really seen him at 100% for a long period of time. And I'm not certain that he's 100%.
Right.
So from where I sit, I feel like Cedric Van Pran has to be the anchor of this entire team, because if he's not performing, the offense isn't humming. And if the offensive line is not humming, then it's going to be a struggle bus. It's going to be a struggle for every game is going to be like Missouri, where Stetson's running for his life. And if Stetson's running for his life, that creates a big problem as we start to face these tougher defenses. So for me, the most important piece of the entire team is Cedric Van Pran.
Man, that's a really good answer. I can't argue with that. That was quite well thought out, John. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is JP like hanging from the cliff. Like, I haven't jumped off the cliff, but I'm hanging on the cliff, waiting to see what happens with this offensive line, because I just don't see it. I haven't seen it. I need to see it. I need to see it again. And what we saw at the beginning of the season we've talked about this. Oregon, I'm not so certain that they were as good as we thought that they were going to be. We'll see how their season pans out.
Wow, they've looked good since. Just quick, they've looked pretty good, but continue.
Okay, well, I beg to differ, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
They haven't lost.
Well, obviously, they haven't lost, but like, who have they played? Like, they played anybody, Paul?
Okay.
South Carolina is coached by Shane Beamer, who is in over his head. And then we to this point we've played basically nobody, right? Like, that's my kickback on that. Is
you're
that
saying we ain't played nobody, Paul?
We ain't played nobody, Paul. That's exactly what I'm saying, and that's why I am solidly on the cliff, because I am fearful of what I'm seeing from the Alabama side, from a statistical standpoint. Like, the net yards per play metric that, like, the Senator, and we talked about this last season. I haven't been monitoring it as much this season, but I noticed that it has dropped precipitously from the beginning of the season. And that's a metric I'm going to continue looking at. I think we're sitting at like 2.5 net yards per play, and Bama's at like 4.3 or something like that, which is like, I think that I can't remember what we were last year, but I want to say that we were in the high threes, if I remember correctly. But there's a number that the Senator talked about, that like every single national champion has been at this number or above as a precursor for winning the national championship. And I believe that we're trending under that number right now.
Got it. Okay. A quick look at Oregon's schedule. BYU, I think, is the best team they've beaten. So just for what that's worth. Let's see. We've got some brotherly love coming up with the next two questions. So, Dogs Forever, how are we feeling about the spread? Which, well, maybe
terrible.
We can kind of terrible. Agreed. Yeah. So in our
terrible. That's my brother-in-law. Terrible.
In our pre-podcast session, we talked about that. Like, whoa, what's going on in this red? So we'll get to that in a bit. But hey, Michael Smith on Twitter, MDubs, which position group needs to have the biggest bounce back this week? Feel like the obvious answer is offensive line, but I think maybe quarterback, maybe tight ends. I don't know. I'm assuming you're in the offensive line camp based on the talk thus far. Yeah. I think that's the answer.
I believe that's the answer. I blame the offensive line for everything that's going wrong on the offense. Like, tight ends, frankly, I don't know how you could even say that, but the as the offensive line goes, so does the offense go. The games are won in the trenches. Like there's one side of the trench that is outperforming itself, and there's another side of the trench that is underwhelming to say the least.
Yeah, and I mean, we've done a lot of running behind our big tight ends too, right? I mean, like when we get to the outside and we can run behind them. That's what we did on that, that fourth down play with Kenny McIntosh against Missouri. I think that's what we did on like on those jet sweeps. We had Kenny McIntosh run. We had Dejon Edwards run one, and they're kind of finding and running behind those tight ends. So yeah, and I think that's kind of like picking up for the slack of where the offensive line is lacking. So Coach Searles, Coach Munkin, let's figure it out. Let's see. Next up, British Bulldog, former guest of My God podcast, also future guest. We do, by the way, we will have Chris back. We've talked about it. We're just trying to line up the timing and exactly when that happens. But we will have Chris on again to hear his full story of his trip to Georgia. Who do you see being the leading running back by the end of the year?
Leading in terms of what?
I knew that was coming. So yeah, I almost asked Chris.
Is the starting running back one? Like,
right. I mean, to me, I think it's like running back. Well, let's put it this way. I mean, right now, so if you look at rushing yards, I mean, Kendall Milton is the leading rusher right now in like basically every category. Yards, he's got the most. He has the highest yards per carry. He has the longest rush of the year among running backs, and he has the most touchdowns. So he's got 4 touchdowns. Dejon has 1. McIntosh has 2 as far as rushing goes. So I don't know. I feel like you and I both kind of want to say Dejon Edwards, but I'm going to say this. I feel like Kenny McIntosh kind of asserted himself as the alpha in the room against Missouri. And here's why. He had an injury. He had his like thigh, like deep contusion to the point where we thought he wasn't going to play. He not only played, but he started, and he played very well. He was fighting through tackles. I've mentioned it multiple times that fourth down play that he had where he ran through a tackle. He doesn't make that. That was on the drive where we scored our first touchdown. To that point, we had only kicked 4 field goals. And, if we turn the ball over on downs there, we might not be talking about the 5-0 Georgia Bulldogs. So, I think we'll kind of end up, it's going to be a committee, and there's going to be a 1A and 1B. I'm actually leaning Kenny McIntosh though. I'm not sure he's going to be the leading, but if the question is leading rusher, that's probably not the answer because he's so into the passing game. But as far as like who's RB1, who's starting, to me, it stays McIntosh. Feel free to disagree.
I'm definitely going to disagree with you because I definitely have. I think Kenny McIntosh is the X factor. The reason that here's where I believe that the reason that Kenny McIntosh is the starting running back is because of what he brings to the table in the passing game and things that are outside the realm of traditional running or traditional rushing attack. He basically is a more versatile running back, I feel like, than Kendall or Dejon. So here's my thing is I believe that if Dejon Edwards can continue on his trajectory, he's going to take over as running back 1.
Okay.
And I feel like that is going to be the case because I'm going to be looking to see where his snap count trend is. And that's something that I'm going to check this out because we talked about this in the last episode. I believe that he worked himself into more snaps that he should be a part of. And I want to look at that and go back and look at all the snap counts that John's been posting for Dejon to see how that trends over time.
Gotcha.
I believe that he is already at or close to, yes. So already here, so last year he had 49 attempts for 215 yards. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, had a long of 31, 2 receptions, 42 yards. So he's already surpassed. They obviously trust him more with the receptions side of things because he's already caught 6 passes for 54 yards. So he's already surpassed his yardage total from last year. He's on track to surpass probably either this game or the next game, depending on what his snap counts look like and what his attempts look like. He's going to surpass the 21 numbers here pretty quickly. And he's definitely going to this is basically going to be his coming out party for next year. And so that's why I say, like, I think that the way that this is trending is that I believe that he's going to be a big part of the offense next year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I got Kenny Mack. You got Dejon. Neither of us with leading rusher Kendall Milton. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing to follow throughout the rest of the year. Let's see. Friend of the show, Tim Riley, is back again with a question. Where are the Oregon/USC junior dogs hiding, and what will it take to get them back on the field? Give your opinion on the critical missing pieces hindering the early success we saw this year. I mean, I think it's actually back to what you said. It's the difference of when the offensive line protects and blocks and gives sets and time and gives the running backs a crease. Like, that's been the difference. So, and I think part of it comes to what you mentioned earlier, right, around Tate Ratledge and like in his health. I think, it seems like the coaches feel like he's the best option at right guard right now, but I don't think he's back to his normal self pre-foot injury. He's still working his way back. And to your point on the schedule, I think the schedule has been kind enough to get him back into form, to get other people up to speed. We kind of knew that going into the season, right? Like, that we were going to have some ramp up time after the opener, to get everything time to gel. I think everyone was kind of thinking it was going to be the defense that were waiting to gel. But I did ask preseason, were we overthinking this, and it's going to be like a defensive led team because it's a Kirby Smart team. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hate having to go back to this every single time, but it's the offensive line, man. I just need the offensive line to be more consistent. And I hate to beat the dead horse, but Stacey Searle's offensive lines are just not good, man. Like, I just don't think that. I just look back, like, if you look back at that time period when he was at UGA previously, it's like, just look at those rosters. Look at the rosters that we had on offense, and what we were able to generate from that. Like, yeah, it's not good. It's just not good. And we have that level of talent, if not more, on offense right now, and we can't freaking figure it out. And that's what I'm waiting. I need someone to show me that they can reverse this. Yeah. And I believe that Kirby is that person, because he immediately addressed the offensive coordinator position with Coley. But the problem is that I feel like that we have a window here with this talent to repeat as national champions, because I do believe that we have the talent. It's just a matter of getting that talent to perform at the level that we need them to generate that. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Jimmy Duncan. Is this the start of a trend with our defense versus Kent State and Missouri, or are these anomalies? Can we fix the issues through watching tape, rotating players, etc.? Are we just getting outsmarted? Cheers and go Dogs. I think you had talked about earlier, like, you're less concerned about the defense, right? Which I think I agree. I mean, I feel like anything that we're seeing with the defense is correctable, and frankly hasn't been that bad. I mean, they won this last game, really, right? I mean, to hold the team to hold Missouri to so many field goals, won the game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else we can ask of the defense when they're given territorial advantage of, like, short. I mean, look at the average starting spot for the defense over the last couple of games. I would imagine that looks very differently from the previous game. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think fixing these issues comes with fixing the offense. And like I said, all things flow through Stacey Searles' offensive line.
This is where I'm gonna have to like change the title of this episode to be like the one where John talks about Stacey Searles.
Yes. Well, I mean, it is what it is. Like,
I know,
mean,
I know, I know.
it like I said, like this is trench warfare, and we've got one side that's holding up their end of the deal.
Yeah.
And we've got the other side that is not, or at least hasn't consistently, I guess.
Hasn't consistently. Yeah. Cause I do think, yeah. I mean, like in the second half against Missouri, we did see the holes start to open up for the running backs. I mean, like the long Kenny McIntosh run, like the enormous hole. Again, let's see when we look at like the film review of this next game, adjustments were made against Missouri, right? Like things changed from the first half to the second half. It was a tale of two halves. And can that trend continue? Because if the first half was the same as the second half against Missouri, I don't think you're panicking quite as much. So I don't know, maybe they'll learn something. Let's see if we don't have to adjust at halftime this next game, right? Like, can we do it from the start, which is what I was hoping we are going to see last week. And clearly we didn't. So maybe we can see that against Auburn.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, we need bell to bell dominance here, because we need to build some depth, and we need to build some reps in some of these quarterbacks, right? Like we need to have Stetson not running for his life in the fourth quarter.
Although, I mean, to be fair, there's only been 2 games in the season where Stetson had to play all 4 quarters. So out of 5. I mean, Kent State, you wouldn't think he would need to, but
when have those 2 games come?
The last 2 games. Yeah, the last 2 weeks. Right. Yeah, but I mean, so here's my quick talk John off the ledge. Like most championship teams go through things like this. And like I said before, I said in the Missouri review, like the 2019 South Carolina game was a game where like everything went wrong and we lost. And in this game, almost everything went wrong and we were able to hang on. We were able to win. You look at so many championship teams that lose to completely inferior teams on the road, like those Clemson national championship teams or Dabo. I mean, other than what the Lawrence year, like, I mean, they're usually losing some game on the road to like Syracuse or Pitt or something, right?
Where
Alabama,
was that game last year?
What?
Where was that game last year?
There wasn't one other than the SEC championship game.
Exactly.
Is this team last year's team? That's the other thing, right? Like, I think we all got so giddy after the first 2 weeks that we were talking about, oh, is this team even better than last year's team? And clearly it's not. I think we can put that to bed. At least not yet to this point. But
I would go so far as to say that I believe the defense absolutely is, especially when Jalen Carter's not getting kneecapped by Missouri linemen.
You think this defense is not better than last year's defense?
I believe that had things panned out differently for the offense, the defense would have been put in situations that would have been detrimental.
I see what you're saying.
As detrimental to their stats. Like basically what I'm saying is the offense has hung the defense out to dry the last 2 games.
Right.
If the offense gets this job done, we boat race both of those teams. Like just period, end of story. Like you remove the turnovers, you remove the drops, you execute the way that they are like used to executing on the offensive side. Like even I could forgive some of the offensive line mistakes, but like when you have Stetson Bennett hitting wide receivers coming out of their breaks in the hands and they drop the ball, that's a huge problem that did not really happen a whole lot last year. When you have Darnell Washington dropping balls, that did not happen a whole lot last year.
What did Darnell didn't drop a ball?
Yes, he's dropped balls. He's dropped balls this year.
Yeah, I mean, this game I would say it was more like Stetson overthrew him when he was open for a touchdown. But I'm just saying, dude, like okay, Alabama last year went and lost on the road to an unranked Texas A&M. Like these things happen. So the fact that we didn't lose, I mean, we are 5-0.
We are
We haven't
5
lost.
0.
We are 5-0 in Kirby we trust. Like,
In Kirby we
I'm not
trust,
saying like that,
for
that
sure.
there's not possibility. Like, are there things to clean up? Yes. And like, I'll get back to a text that Josh sent. I don't know if you remember this because it's like kind of in the heat of the thing where like we were trying to come back and he's like, guys, this is fun. It was like, oh, Josh, like, what are you talking about? But like, we haven't had a game like this. Like, I mean, we talked about it was the biggest comeback win since the Rose Bowl. We're not going to blow out every team by 30 points as much as we want to. It's not going to happen. And was Missouri inferior? Should we have beat them? Yes. And you're totally right. And there's things to clean up. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, survive in advance, move on. We're 5-0, and let's trust the coaches to clean it up and fix it. If they don't, it's gonna bite us. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm. That's why I haven't completely jumped off. That's why.
Yeah,
I've got. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Is Stacy's cereal still here?
Awesome. All right. Well, now it is time. For Coach Trillbill's over-unders. As always, Coach will track these for us. Let's jump right in to the offensive over-unders. Offensive touchdowns, over-under 4.5. I'll go first on the first one. I've got under.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go over.
Okay. Over under 315 passing yards for Georgia.
Under.
Okay. Ooh, I'm going to go over. Over under.
Be still my heart.
Over under 150 rushing yards for Georgia. I guess it's my turn. Over.
Now you got me wondering, what's the average rushing?
Georgia averages 178.6 yards a game rushing.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to go over.
Okay. Okay, so going to the defense, Georgia forces over under 1.5 turnovers.
I'm going to go over.
Okay, same, because I wrote this down ahead of time, so I can't waffle. Georgia allows over under 1.5 touchdowns.
Over.
Agreed. Over. And let's see. Over under 295 yards allowed by the Georgia defense. Is it my turn?
I believe it. I believe it
over.
is.
I said over. They're going to go over 295.
Going to go over.
Georgia is allowing 264 on average. Auburn averages 389 yards.
89. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So we're going to ask them to outperform by 105 yards on that total yards. I'm going to go
295. Oh, yeah, Georgia. Yeah. I gotcha. Georgia's defense to outperform by that. Yeah, got it. The fact that Coach Trillbill has you is tracking these has you way overthinking this.
Yes. I'm gonna go under.
Okay. Let's see. So for special teams, over under, he's got any combination of any of these things: a blocked punt, a blocked kick, or a special teams touchdown. Over under 0.5.
Over.
Okay. I'm going to go under, and I'm going to give my logic on this one because I decided I'm not going over on any other special teams until they actually do it. And then finally, miscellaneous section. Over under, Auburn is a basketball school references during the game on Twitter. Over under, sit at 10.
The exact words. I mean, how are we tracking that one?
Come on, these are the wacky miscellaneous ones, John. You just got to roll with the punches.
I'm gonna go under.
Under. Ooh. I have wrote down over. So, Coach, this is the first time we disagreed on one of the weird ones, and now John's gonna claim shenanigans if I get it right.
I'm gonna have to go over because I can game that by doing the mentions
So
on
now
Twitter.
Now you're changing. Yeah, this is the one that you can like literally
you can manipulate
you can affect
this.
it. So if you tweet it, 10 times, then it's the over. I think it's the over.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks to Coach Trill for sending them in and for now tracking them as well. And Coach, looking forward to seeing you on Saturday, assuming you'll be there. All right. So for our final predictions, the line is set at Georgia is favored by 29.5. So back to Dogs Forever for your question. Oh, that's a big spread. Over under is at 50. So that gives us an implied score of Georgia 39.75 to Auburn 10.25. I actually don't even have, I usually have like maybe I do have it. The Odd Shark predicted score that we look at has Georgia 42.2 to 16.8. So they're predicting that Georgia will win, Auburn will cover, and the total will hit the over. I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I had a score kind of in mind. I'm looking at like 45-17.
45-17. Okay. I love how we're about to get into something here because I love how I just like went through my diatribe of like, John, come on, like, why are you freaking out so much? And then you're like, yeah, 45-17. I actually kind of was like, I don't know that I can keep picking the same kind of scores as I've been. I will say that, like, I am a little gun shy of the lofty scores. I mean, I expect Georgia to win this game. Not like I'm gonna like predict just to lose or something. But I've got a much tighter game than you do, at least. I've got Georgia 30, Auburn 17. I don't know. I'm kind of over the outlandish. We're gonna totally blow everyone out. I expect us to win. But we'll see how it goes on Saturday. That's my guess.
Am I wrong, or did you predict an over? The number of touchdowns that you predicted matched with your score?
Are you trying to pull David Wright on me?
Didn't you say it wasn't Coach's over unders like 4.5 or something like that?
Yeah, and I said under.
I thought you said over.
Okay. No, I said under. I did. Yeah, you said over. I said under. Yeah, okay. It actually does line up. Although my stance is always that they don't have to line up. They actually do here, but I feel like you don't have to because it's called hedging your bets.
You can hedge your bets. Yeah.
So, okay. So while we're on the topic, so David, I know you listen. David sent me a message last week and gave me two pieces of information. One, John, he called you out for doing what you just were saying that I was doing because like you had some math that didn't add up, but like I said, it doesn't matter. Two, much more importantly, he let us know that the Raising Cane's is in the old Guthrie's building on Baxter Street in Athens. So thank you to David for confirming that.
Thank you for confirming what we believe to be true.
Exactly. Yeah, I was not sure. There were many Googles that I kind of edited out. I think I can't even remember what I did. Trying to get that for sure. So, so you said so no soccer on Saturday? Is that right?
Yeah, there's nothing on the schedule. Something gets added last minute, but they don't tend to do that. But yeah, it's an open weekend, so we'll see. I'm gonna connect with you after the game, after the podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. We thought we were all gonna like kind of come into town for the weekend, but Ella has a theater rehearsal that we had somehow not put on our calendar, so I think it'll just be me. Like as far as like my immediate family, I think it's just gonna end up being me. But yeah, I'll be there. for sure. John, hopefully you're able to be there as well. Be out and about around hitting up the tailgates. And you know what? I skipped a question. I did skip a question because I just remember, and here's why I remembered this, because I was going to say something about like other games this weekend to watch. I do look forward to, after our game, coming back and watching Alabama A&M for the night game on CBS. So Grandpa Pappy, apologies, missed your question. I'll answer it quickly. He said, why didn't CBS let this game be their night game? And the answer is there is a pecking order. There's basically like a draft for the games, and CBS always gets the number one pick. CBS, I think twice a year gets a doubleheader. This is one of those weeks. So on the doubleheader weeks, their number one pick is for the night game. And so basically the answer is CBS valued Alabama, Texas A&M as a higher game than Georgia Auburn. So that's the answer to that question. So
yeah, I think aren't there like something speaking of the scheduling quirks, aren't there like 3:30 games this weekend?
That's next weekend. Yeah, I
next
that out
weekend.
in the news and notes. And it is weird because Georgia Vanderbilt next week is at 3:30 on SEC Network, which is really weird. I don't know that I've ever seen that.
I didn't think that was allowed.
Agreed. I didn't think so either. I saw someone said it was like a quirk where there's not a noon game next week or something like that, like on SEC Network, maybe. Which now I just remembered. Okay, so you were driving. You probably didn't see this. Kentucky Ole Miss last week was on two channels. It was on at the same time. It was on regular ESPN and SEC Network. And I believe the reason is because if you watched on SEC Network, you didn't get the Aaron Judge live look-ins.
Can I get that this weekend on any game that I would decide to watch?
Oh my gosh. Oh, holy cow. So
talk about read your audience.
I know. I don't get it.
When I saw that happen, I was like, I don't know about this SEC contract now. We gotta rework this. We gotta rework this thing. This is some BS. I don't want to see this.
Right?
Literally nobody cares about this. Literally most of the SEC is probably Braves fans in general. Like I'm saying that in a generality, but like,
yeah, I mean, Braves Southeast is Braves country for the most part.
Is Braves country, right? Like it's ridiculous. Like nobody gives a about that.
I mean, honestly, and I don't even, I mean, he still hasn't passed it as far as I remember, right? Did he? He didn't break it, did he? I don't even know. I have no idea.
Who cares? Yeah. We don't track such things.
It's the AL record is whatever. Anyways.
The only thing that I know is that Albert Pujols is approaching his numbers that he needs to hit. So
I did see that. I got an alert on that while we were recording.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hopefully, by this weekend, the Braves have clinched the East. Magic number is 1, and we can all laugh at the Mets broadcaster guy who called it in like May.
Wait, hang on. Did they win? Because they were playing.
No, they lost. They lost 4-0 to the Marlins.
Carter's not going to be happy about that. Sorry, Carter.
Yeah. Well, what magic number is 1, right? So don't we just need 1 Braves win or 1 Mets loss, right?
We need, yeah. So what did the Mets do?
Oh, postponed.
What? That means they have a game in hand now. Oh, that does mean that they have a double header. So that could actually work in our favor, actually, now that I think about that.
Yeah. I mean, we got we got what, 2 more games of the Marlins. Just got to win 1 against the Marlins.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, the Nationals are playing the Mets.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk after. Let's figure out if we'll figure out the plan for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Hey, man, this was fun, and everybody go check out Dog Central and get your watch from Oxia Time.
Absolutely.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.